Why is it necessary to share my life experience on this particular platform? Honestly, I believe that my life experience will provide hope and also inspiration to those facing similar difficulties, having in mind that people may reject you for whatever reason they may claim. But listen, live a life that God will accept you even when people reject you. I titled this part of my story as A Journey of Faith and Ministry. Actually, it narrates my ministry in the urban areas. As I reflect on my early years in ministry, I am reminded of the incredible journey that God has taken me thus far. After serving in Angomboro village for almost 2 years, I experienced a significant change in 1998. This was the first transfer I experienced just 1 year before the creation of New Caro DCC in 1999. My new assignment took me to a place called Zokonu in New Caro local government area. Zokonu is a community that will leave an indelible mark on my heart. The believers in Zokonu were some of those most dedicated and in fact loving people I had ever met in my life. Despite my relatively short tenure with them, God truly blessed my ministry in a remarkable ways. The experience was a precious one, and I cherish the memories of my time in Zokonu. However, God had other plans for me, because in 2001, I received a new assignment to the First City Church in a place called Aku Village in Mararaba. Mararaba is a city sharing boundary with Abuja, the FCT. This new chapter in my ministry brought fresh challenges and opportunities. My friends, I was eager to serve and minister to the people in Aku Village, and I was excited to see what God had in store for me in this new location. Now, friends, listen to my ministry story in the city. Going to the city, I thought I had arrived, just as I said earlier, but it was the most challenging period I have ever had in my life journey. Initially, I was excited to be serving in an urban setting, but it ended in pains. During my time in Mararaba, I was ordained as a reverend minister. This occasion was extravagant, with display of money, display of brigade guard of honor, convoys of cars, and in fact, a very big party was organized. However, this celebration ignited serious hatred from my leaders and also my colleague pastors who were there seeing what is happening. In fact, these people went and reported me to the district executive, that is my leaders. My friends, without any delay, a committee was set up to investigate this very matter. And I was asked to write an apology letter for organizing a reception after my ordination service, claiming that it was against the Equa Church policy. Of course, in order to maintain peace, I humbly complied. Just a year after that, I furthered my education without any sponsor. But seeing my struggle for tuition fees and other financial needs, a Nigerian government minister's wife came to my aid. In fact, she came to my aid through my Christian mother, who we used to call her Mama Harry. She happened to be my classmate during my seminary studies. This minister's wife supported me with funds, which I used to purchase 5 motorcycles for commercial use. And in fact, to enable me maybe have even an easy, studies without much stress in the seminary. However, this gesture created a big enmity for me, as I was accused of joining a cult called Sekere. And according to this allegation, that I joined this cult in order to receive this money, these funds that I have at that time. This allegation was just anchored on little children's testimony. Friends, you know what? Another panel was set up to investigate my source of funding from these same district executive leaders. Well, the committee's report vindicated me, stating that there was no substantial evidence against me because all allegations laid against me were abstract and also assumptions. But you know what? My leaders resolved to eject me from the ministry, giving me just 3 days to vacate the parsonage. Fortunately enough, our headquarters in Jos, through the office of the General Secretary, late Reverend Dr. Musa Asake, and the immediate past ECWA President, Reverend Dr. Stevie Baba Panya, these two people intervened and saved me from this embarrassment. As a result of their intervention, the district executive now reposted me to a very remote village called Adonkasa in Karo local government. After I reported and arranged when to move into this village, my fellow colleagues went and gossiped to the villagers that I was in Sekere. Therefore, they should not accept me. Of course, this news scared them and they have to reject this posting. Just after this rejection, I was asked then by the district executive to go and start selling poultry feeds with ECWA Rural Development of that DCC. And of course, you know, as usual, I complied without argument. After a year serving in that ECWA Rural Development selling poultry feeds, I was then transferred to a very remote village again, where you will have to swim across the river to get into that village. The villagers accepted me later, but another pastor who attempted to discourage them on the same allegation initially rejected me. I served peacefully in this village until another year this issue of Sekere crept into the village by the same testimony of children. And you know what? Because I vehemently stood against it and relied on my prayers than going to a so-called prophet that they used to go, I then became a target, which led the district executive to set another committee to investigate me for my involvement in this Sekere again. In fact, I assume that that was a setup. But however, God is in control. As the investigation was ongoing, that was when late Reverend Dr. Musa Asake finished his tenure and handed over to Reverend Dr. Mipo Dada, who became the General Secretary at then. Just after Reverend Dr. Musa Asake handed over to Reverend Dr. Mipo Dada, the issue was presented to him by the same district executive, knowing fully that Reverend Dr. Musa Asake is no more in the office. I was served with a letter stating that my service were no longer required in New Karo DCC. My friends, this was the most difficult time I had ever experienced in my life. What happened after that rejection? Join me in the next episode to hear how God accepted me even when people rejected me. Thank you so much for watching. Until I meet you again in the next episode, I am Reverend Menasara Ilia Wakai. God bless you.